Hello, Austin. Welcome. We're midweek in Austin Startup Week. So excited to be here today. My name is Gavin Gillis. I'm the CEO of YGC, and I'm your host this week for the work from home track, which will be going all this morning. I'm so excited today to introduce you to Reagan Pugh. I got to see Reagan in action. We're talking about him being a speaker and sharing his best tips for meetings in the workplace and speaking. And he is an incredible facilitator. I got to see him work at Austin's affordable housing and impact accelerators over the past years, and seeing his leadership and mentorship. I mean, this is what we're trying to highlight this week during Austin Startup Week, is these incredible contributors and the folks that make up the DNA and the things that are special about Austin. It's really tricky in kind of post-COVID times to create this feeling of membership and connection, and really excited to hear from Reagan about what his playbook is, what his tools are, and his methodologies for virtual meeting success. It's a tricky time, and I can just tell from his background that Reagan's already got this together. So Reagan, we're going to take you off mute and get you into this and have you share with folks here for this work from home track. So thank you for joining today.
Awesome. Gavin, thank you so much, man. It's good to see you, and have just enjoyed getting to learn from you over the last couple of years. And good morning. How is everyone? I hope that we're doing all right. I hope that there's a chat that you can drop some comments in. If you can, drop a comment in and say hello. If not, we would do it anyway. Aaron, if you could share the slides to make sure that folks can see what we're doing here, I love that. Thank you. So grateful to the Austin Startup Week team for making all of this possible. Wherever you are, whatever is going on, can I just pause for a second and bring to attention what we're doing here? We have pivoted. We have chosen to do something in light of unforeseen circumstances. A friend of mine, Paul O'Brien, who's a startup guy here in town, always says, startups, the only reason startups ever really fail is because people quit. And here we are not quitting today. And I'm ready to talk with you all about how to keep charging forward and having productive and engaging meetings, even in light of the fact that our circumstances are not ideal. Everything that we do today is going to be something I hope that you'll copy and paste into your own meetings, every single thing, including this first thing, and that is beginning any gathering with gratitude. So wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, I bet you probably carried your entire day, your entire morning into the seat that you're in. Who knows? You might be on a couch and you might be sitting on a Lego. I don't know what's going on, but our whole day comes with us wherever we go. And so anytime we have a gathering, particularly a virtual one, I find it helpful to get people to pause for just one moment. And just with me, wherever you are, let's take a breath. And out. Let's do one more. And maybe this is the only breath that you'll take all day that you will be completely conscious of. If so, let's make sure we do it with intention. Let's take a deep breath. And out. I hope that you can think for 1 second about something that's going right for you in your life. This is as woo-woo as I'm going to get today. But I do believe when we start a gathering, that whenever we clean the slate and help folks focus on what is positive in their lives at this point, that helps open the door for them to be receptive to new ideas, to feedback, and to collaboration. Whatever you do before your meetings, find a way to help people clear their brains. I'm grateful to be here with you all today. This is a miracle that we get to do this. So let's get to work. If you're here, you might be feeling like you've got this new term called Zoom fatigue. You might be feeling like you're unable to collect the people with whom you work and get them moving in a direction. You might feel like, I don't want to inconvenience anyone with another meeting, or you might feel like, what used to, our meetings were so much more productive. How are we going to make progress if we can't be together in person? Or you might just be feeling like, I need to figure out a way to increase some fun and engagement in the meetings that I've got. Well, our purpose today is very clear. Our purpose is to celebrate new ways of connecting and working by demystifying virtual meetings. We're all doing them right now, right? Like we've all figured it out, but for some of us, it's still a mystery about how to have a virtual meeting and how to have an effective and an engaging virtual meeting. And I think we're here because we all want the latter. A friend of mine, Chad Littlefield, says that there's no such thing as Zoom fatigue. There's just bad Zoom meetings. Think about it. So here's the stakes for today. This meeting mattered if, this is what you can hold me accountable to in 40 minutes. This meeting mattered if you walk away with at least one new practice you will put to use immediately. I'm talking like your Zoom meeting tomorrow morning. At the end of it, you can sue Austin Startup Week if you didn't get that, if you're not happy. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about having a clear purpose and a clear agenda. We're going to talk about activities to engage participants, psychological safety in a virtual world, and we're going to talk about introducing fun and connection. So let's begin with a clear purpose and agenda. I just got a message from Austin Startup Week. Please don't sue us. Don't do that. So I'm always going to wonder, wherever I'm at, whenever you're taking up my time, I'm always going to wonder, where are we going? Why are we having this meeting? And where are you taking me? Here's what I hope to give you today more than anything else. Protected time and space to think about the way that you run your meetings. We're going back to back to back to back. And we always think to ourselves, I wish I had a moment to reflect and think about a tool I might employ. Well, this is that gift. This is that protected time and space. So I invite you to pull out a pen and a paper or open up an Evernote window next to this screen to take some notes and try to put this to work so you walk away with progress on one of your ideas. Here's what we want to do before our virtual meeting. Interesting. We've come back to our purpose that I started our meeting with. Well, yes, that's because I believe that every meeting should start with a purpose. We need to let the people know why they're in the room. So the purpose here is to celebrate new ways of connecting and working by demystifying virtual meetings. Now, why does this matter? It's because you need to let the people know that the purpose of the meeting is the outcome that we're looking for, not the business unit or the agenda items. How many of you have meetings across your calendar littered with the business units or agenda items as the title and purpose of the meeting, when in reality, the meeting's something else? Here's what I mean. And this wisdom is pulled from Priya Parker in her book, The Art of Gathering. She reminds us that a category of a meeting is not the purpose of the meeting. People are connected to a purpose. They're aware of a category. So here's some examples. Categories are like a budget meeting, weekly check-in, quarterly update, marketing team, all staff meeting. We have these all over our calendar. Watch engagement change in your meeting and watch people be more invested in the direction when you articulate a purpose instead of categories. A purpose might look like clearly understand our customer. And I'm not joking, like literally title your meeting this, understand the customer power hour. Oh, so we know what success looks like in that meeting. Or come to consensus on August priorities. Okay, we know by the end of this what needs to happen. Or reconnect as a team, or decide on December marketing. Don't just call it the marketing meeting. Call it the decide on December marketing meeting. Give people an idea of where you're taking them and title it this way. You'll also notice when we started, I said this meeting mattered if, and then I gave myself a goal that I had to hit. I created stakes. I created accountability on the front end. Another way to invest people in your gathering on the front end is to open a story loop by claiming that you will achieve something. And people are going to want to hang around to the end to see if you do. So create stakes, because meetings matter more if there are stakes to hold the meeting accountable for results. Help us know that you care enough about this meeting to hold yourself accountable to achieve the results that you claim. How many meetings have you been in where it's like, was this really a meeting, or did you just need to talk to people? Another thing that I love making sure exists before the meeting starts, is a prototype. My friend Douglas Ferguson at Voltage Control here in Austin, who I get to work with, he came up with this idea. So a prototype, many of you know, it's an early sample or a model or an example of a test concept. Like before I make an app, I might draw out the different screens of the app on my phone so that we can discuss it before we spend all the time in development. Well, this isn't just for developers. Like, we need a prototype for every meeting. We need something tangible. And if you don't have a prototype, don't have a meeting. We're wasting time if we don't have something concrete to talk about, even if we're brainstorming. And again, hat tip to Douglas on that one. So here, a prototype could be a budget, an event plan, or a room layout, or a marketing strategy, an agenda draft or sample copy, or a drawing of what the website might look like. Here's the deal. We all need to point at something that is a single source of truth in order to have a successful meeting, particularly virtually. Otherwise, we're all just talking about our concept of what we think we're talking about. We need a central thing that we can look at and discuss and agree upon. No prototype, no meeting. Remember, it doesn't have to be something fancy. It can just be draft language. Okay, so before the meeting, we want to have a sample virtual meeting agenda. Okay, so before the meeting, you want to get clear on it. Steal this if you want. You can email me later and I'll send it to you. Take a screenshot. So here's the sample meeting agenda, because sometimes we just need a framework to employ. For 5 minutes, have connection. Do gratitude, do happy crappy, whatever, do lessons learned. And then you want to introduce the purpose and the stakes. Literally, we're modeling this right now as we go. And then give me an overview of the agenda. Show me where I'm going. We did that. And then cover the first agenda item in less than 10 minutes. This is key. Don't slog through 30 minutes of stuff. After that first agenda item, pause and give me time for questions, comments, or concerns. This is simple stuff, but people forget to do it. Then proceed with the agenda and pause after each item to make sure that you allow time for the step above, which is questions, comments, and concerns. And then I want you to wrap up and lock in the learning at the end of your meetings with the 3 W's: what, so what, and now what. This is one of my favorite ways to wrap up any kind of a gathering, to make sure that we get to hear one another and to hear what we noticed. So here's this. I got this from Liberating Structures. This is one of my favorite activities. This is how we wrap up a meeting. You ask everyone what. So what came up for you? What surprised you? What new thoughts do you have? And I would literally share a Google Doc with everyone in the meeting and write what, and then allow everyone access to type down their observations of what they noticed, just simply their observations, because people notice different things. And then you ask, so what? And so then I would, in bold, write on a Google Doc, so what? And then allow people time to individually go in and say why what they said they noticed was important to them, or what difference their observation might make to the organization. And then I would invite people to share, now what? Crowdsource the actions that you think that you should take. What are the next steps? What are people individually ready to commit to? Open up a Google Doc and share it with everyone. Give them 5 minutes on the timer to fill out these questions, and watch your participation and your engagement soar, and multiply the amount of ideas that you have. So it doesn't just have to be you figuring things out. So that's all before the meeting. That's a lot of work to do. That's a lot of intention to bring, and it's all worth it. So that during the meeting, you can move pretty smoothly. So that during the meeting, you can start on time. Look, we got to kill this. I'm just going to give everyone a couple more minutes to get on culture. We got to kill it. Start on time and honor the time of the people who joined. Remember to think in 10-minute sprints, followed by some sort of engagement. We're not going to last much longer than that. Guys, we're already looking into the portal of distraction, which is there is distraction lurking behind every open tab. So every 10 minutes, pause and give some time for people to participate. Break every hour. Monitor the chat for questions. In virtual meetings, almost all engagement is good engagement. It's not a distraction if people are typing in the chat or asking questions. Pay attention to that because you want every ounce of their engagement that you can get. And then lastly, please end on time. People are booking back-to-back Zoom meetings, and give them a chance to use the restroom in between. So that's during the meeting. And then here's after the meeting as we round up our first section. After the meeting, send out the meeting minutes and action items, but don't type out a novel for me, and make sure in bold you write at Reagan or at Gavin so that I know what thing is mine to carry forward. Guys, this is simple stuff. I'm just hoping that it jogs your memory. Then make the recording available to those who might need a refresher, or better yet, open up Loom. If you haven't used a Loom, you can make videos that are really short and really quick, and go over the meeting highlights on Loom so that people don't have to watch the entire hour-long meeting. And here's what no one does. Take 2 minutes to think about what worked in this meeting, what didn't, and what you should change for the next meeting. That simple act of reflection. I think the most effective leaders are the most reflective leaders. And that means 2 minutes of reflection after your meeting to tweak what didn't work for next time. I like to regularly solicit feedback, 2 questions on a Google form to get people's insight. And that brings us to the end of section 1 on getting a clear purpose and an agenda to have a meeting that people trust you to lead them through. Let's pause. Maybe take a quick deep breath again. And I assume I don't see any chats from people other than Gavin and Aaron. So I assume that we don't get chats from everyone else. If I do, drop in and say hello. Otherwise, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're still with us. Let's take one more deep breath. Very good. So let's talk about some activities to keep people engaged throughout the meeting, because distractions do lurk behind every tab. Awesome. Okay, so remember, we want to work in 10-minute chunks. We need to be engaged, so make sure you pause and give us time for input, questions, or feedback, all right, like I just did. Okay. And then share your screen like we're doing here. Don't tell us what you're talking about. Show us. I got to have an example to be on the same page. Next, show and tell. To engage people in your meetings, here's what I love to do. Ahead of time, farm out pieces of the agenda to attendees. Do peer teaching activities or build in status updates. Say, hey, we got to figure out a big problem in our market now that COVID's happening. I want you 3 to take this. I want you 3 to take this, and you 3 to take this. In our meeting, you're each going to give a presentation of 10 minutes of what you think we should do. Yo, this is simple, but guys, this changes everything. Now everyone's invested in your meeting. Don't let it just be you talking the whole time. Particularly if you've got younger people or people who need experience. Use meetings to level your team up. Use your virtual meetings to develop and teach them by farming out something that you normally do on the agenda to give them the experience of facilitating, of asking questions, and of challenging and pushing your team. Guys, we need reps to grow. It doesn't happen by reading books. Break every 60 minutes. And please, Lord, do not have meetings longer than like 2 hours. If you need to have a day full of meetings, give me like 30 or 45 minutes in between your 2-hour chunks. Do not make me go all day. It will not be a productive meeting, no matter what you think. Utilize the chat. Again, ask for feedback in real time. Even every once in a while, say, are you with me? Or say, okay, based on what I just said, what was the most important line that you guys pulled out of that? I'm not talking about third grade teacher keeping them accountable. I'm not talking about the check attention feature that they have on WebEx. Like, I'm talking about actually engaging people by saying, any comments, questions, or concerns, and then paying attention to the chat. This is simple, but take advantage of breakout rooms. Guys, you have to let us connect because we're missing connection right now. I can hide in a meeting of 12 people, but if you put me in a room full of 3 people, then I'm going to need to bring my camera on and I'm going to need to engage. Whenever you do send people into a breakout room, make it easy. Select a spokesperson for each room before you send them into the room. Or say, hey, so the first, whenever you get to your breakout room, the person whose name is first alphabetically goes first. And then after you go, you pick the next speaker. Why does that matter? Because how many times have you been in a Zoom meeting and you ask for feedback and 2 people come off mute at the same time and they go and then they get interrupted. And the next thing you know, we've wasted 30 seconds and people are afraid to come off of mute and talk. And we lose not only the energy and excitement people have to share, but we also lose time. So pick your speaker and tell them when they're done, they need to pass the speaking baton. This is simple, but watch it save you minutes and watch it keep people focused. Provide moment for reflection. We're going fast today, but whenever we're facilitating a meeting, make sure, because some of us don't always learn auditorily or visually. Some of us need time to process and reflect. Set a timer for 5 minutes and let people silently come up with ideas and brainstorm solutions. Invite people to share their screen. Say, hey, take 5 minutes and make a 3-slide PowerPoint deck about what our problem is, what the solution is, and what the next steps are. Let everyone try that for 5 minutes and then watch your participation change your meeting. And then lastly, we can collaborate virtually. There's all kinds of tools like Google Jamboard, which is free. And I'm about to want to, Aaron, change my screen to show you something real quick. So we can collaborate Google Jamboard, which is with Google Jamboard, which is free. There's also tools like Mural and Miro and AWW, or a web whiteboard is what it stands for, or concept board. So I'm going to show you Google Jamboard and what I like to do for meetings all the time. If you haven't seen this, it is free. And Aaron, that's ready to go. And like for a meeting like this, what I might do is I might send everyone to the Google Jamboard. And then I would say, okay, and you can share this with up to 20 people, which is why I didn't do it for today because it would overload it. But you can share this for free with up to 20 people, and they can come in and they can make a sticky and they can say what they learned. So what did you learn from the session today? I learned that we got to do 10-minute chunks, and then they can move their sticky over here. Or what questions do you still have? And then you can make multiple slides in a Google Jamboard so you can progress people through an activity through a day. I did a weekend-long retreat 3 weeks ago, and we had slides for each individual person to introduce themselves. So I gave them 10 minutes and they uploaded photos and they uploaded their favorite animal and all of this stuff. And it gave people the sense of being able to participate in a tactile way. It's as close as we can get to putting sticky notes on the wall. So use Google Jamboard and invite your people to brainstorm ideas to challenges and put a sticky note up in the middle of a slide and ask 5 questions that are pressing your organization right now. And then let people go crazy for 10 minutes. And then you have a snapshot of the wisdom of your organization, just like we could if we were in person. This is an easy tool to use, and I would recommend it to any of y'all. Okay, I'm coming back, Aaron, to my deck. Awesome. Oh, wrong one. Here we are. So yeah, collaborate virtually. I love that as an option. And then remember, you can do a Google Doc or anything like that as well. Remember, I'm modeling everything that I think you should do. Let's have an intermission stretch, but for real. Like, where are you? Where are you? Like, let's stand up. Like, maybe if you need to touch your toes, I'm serious. I can't see you, but I invite you to do this, because when we change our biology, we change our ability to pay attention. Maybe do some twists. Okay. Maybe take the arms way up high. Ooh, I'm pitting out. Maybe do a toe touch. And let's take one deep breath together. I'm willing to look like a fool in order to demonstrate to you that I literally feel different and I literally feel more engaged. Guys, this is simple stuff. This is our bodies. We have to move them. Give your people a second to take a break. Okay, here we come. We're going to talk about psychological safety and its importance in virtual meetings. How do the people that are in your meetings feel? Guys, whenever we're trying to get a startup off the ground, whenever we're bootstrapping it, whenever our customers are telling us they don't have the cash to pay for our services anymore during COVID, it's tough to remember that the most important thing is how our people feel and whether or not they're safe, whether they feel a sense of safety to do the work. So I'm going to talk about a quick case study to give you a quick background on psychological safety. This case study is by a company called Google. It's a company called Google. I don't know if you've heard of them. And so what they wanted to know was what makes the most effective teams. They wanted to know what makes our teams most effective. So they spent 2 years researching 180 teams. They did 200 plus interviews, assessing 250 team attributes, like whether or not people should work from home, or whether or not seniority mattered on the team, or whether or not where people went to college mattered, or should people be co-located when they work? Should people have co-leadership or one leader? And they thought, okay, you know what's going to make for the most effective teams? That's going to be a team of superheroes. It's got to be all-stars. If we can get the right people in the right seats on the bus, which we've heard before, then that's going to make for our most effective teams. But you want to know what? That's not what they found. They found that instead what made for their most effective teams were psychological safety, dependability, structure and clarity, meaning, and impact. This is fluffy stuff. This is woo-woo stuff, Reagan. And what at the top of this, psychological safety? Psychological safety is at the top of this. Team members feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable in front of each other? Why, yes. The most important attribute for the most effective teams, and now everybody is practicing psychological safety, the most important attribute is, do I feel safe to make a fool of myself by challenging authority, asking a question, or taking a risk? Do I think people are going to hold it against me, or do I feel like they got my back? And guess what? Psychological safety matters twice as much in a virtual environment, because we don't have a coffee room that we can go talk about this. You can't give me a hug in the hallway afterward and tell me it's going to be okay. So we have to look out for each other. Thankfully, Google gave us the 3 elements of practicing psychological safety that work virtually. And they're so simple. Your grandma probably told them to you. And we're going to run through them real quick here. Number 1, practicing psychological safety means equality in conversational turn taking. Number 2, we have to ostentatiously listen. And number 3, we need to practice average social sensitivity. Here they are real quick. This is so simple. This is just being a nice person. But if you're leading a team, or if you're participating on a team, you can change the culture in your virtual meeting and ensure effectiveness if you practice these things. Number 1, equality in conversational turn taking. Let's make sure each person speaks roughly the same amount. If we do this, the team's more likely to succeed. They have data on this. They would sit in meetings and record with a timer how long each person spoke. If it's a meeting where one expert speaks the whole time, that meeting, that team is destined to be less effective. If it's a meeting where everyone gets a chance to weigh in with their opinion, thoughts, and feelings, that team is destined to be more effective. So use the tools I gave you. Send people to breakout rooms, pass the baton, farm out work ahead of time, and get people to do presentations on different aspects of the organization. The more people talk in your organization, the more they will feel heard. And the more they feel heard, the more willing they are to contribute. Am I preaching to somebody today? Next one, ostentatious listening. We just need to listen to people when they talk. And I'm guilty of this. We all know. We got to show our team members that we're listening by actually looking in the camera and nodding and smiling and staying off email and staying off Slack and not having a private conversation with someone else. You want to know my favorite way to show people that I'm on camera and that I'm listening? It's to literally make sure that my hands are here, that I've got my hands here, that I'm doing, that way they know that I'm not doing mischievous things with my fingers. Vanessa Van Edwards, who's a body analyst, says that when we can see people's hands, we're more willing to trust them. So get your team to trust you and show them that you're not using your hands to do something else. Next one, average social sensitivity. This is so what your grandma told you. It's the ability to intuit how others feel based on their tone of voice, their expressions, and their nonverbal cues. Here's all this means. If you've ever been in a meeting with someone and they kind of slump in there and they slouch in their chair, they don't participate much, and then they leave. Average social sensitivity would be saying, hey, just checking in. You don't seem like yourself today. Hey, it seems like you're a little down. Are you okay? Or, hey, is there anything I can help with? It seems to me like something must be going on. Imagine how much more difficult it is to have those moments virtually. So we need to be vigilant for the people with whom we work in the meetings in which we participate by paying attention to people and checking in on them and making sure that if we notice that something's off with them, we give them the opportunity and we send a follow-up text to say, hey, if you need a phone call just to talk through something, I'm here. This is being a good human. And the good news for us today, guys, is being a good human means that your team's going to be more effective. How could we not practice psychological safety? It is essential for us to make it through this pandemic that we stay connected. And to stay connected, we need to be safe. Round in the corner, we are coming in fast. Let's take a quick deep breath. So we've got the importance of creating a clear agenda, of telling people where we're going. We've got some activities to make sure that everyone's participating. And we've reminded ourselves how important it is to focus on the sense of safety on our team. Let's just make sure that we end today by reminding all of you that you can always have fun. Like, you can have fun doing anything. You can have fun taking out the trash. There's always room for fun and connection. And as a matter of fact, the most effective virtual meetings are filled with fun and connection. Anything can be more fun if only you're willing to protect the time and the space to do it. So here's a few things. Here's a few things that I've found that work. And it's all pulled from wisdom from my friend Chad Littlefield. We must prioritize connection before content. We got to connect with one another before I'm going to be able to digest any content. I need to have an emotional connection with you before I can have an intellectual connection with you. So give me that 5 minutes of connection at the beginning, like we did with gratitude. Ideally, though, you're inviting people to drop into the chat what they're grateful for. Or if it's a small enough meeting, pass the baton around the room and let people share, or share a relatable story. Every week, maybe you spotlight one team member and you give them 5 questions to talk about what the most important thing in life is for them. Who cares if it has to do with your meeting? It's 5 minutes and it's going to connect people. 2, and I think everybody's hip with turning video on at this point, but I still always get people that are like, what if my CEO won't turn the video on? Or like, what if there's that one person that never turns the video on? Here's the deal. Unfortunately, you can't make people do anything, right? And we don't want to shame people because that makes people feel unsafe, particularly the people that are watching you shame someone for not having the video. So my best advice is to prime. In every email before the meeting, whenever you start the meeting, if you're having a call before the meeting, make sure that you prime people by saying, and we can't wait to connect virtually by seeing everyone. This is going to be a camera on meeting, so you all get ready to see each other. The more you talk about it, the more people will believe it's an expectation beforehand. So we must prime our people, prime our customers, prime our teams to do the things that we believe will be best for our meeting. Insert fun throughout that connects to the purpose. Stop and do a group stretch. Invite one of your friends that's a yoga instructor to do a 15-minute share yoga section. Do the story time spotlight. Share a relatable meme. Between every item on your agenda, Gavin is good at telling dad jokes. So let Gavin do that. Then I want you to break up the agenda with commercials presented by somebody new. Okay, let somebody new have a commercial about themselves or their department or their initiative. My girlfriend and her business, they create a culture champion where each month someone is in charge of engagement. And then lastly, end with meaning. Wrap up the meeting by reminding everyone why we're doing this, because we forget and we all want to be connected to a deeper purpose. So Gavin's telling me he's got some questions. This is what we did today. You have been engaged and you have been learning. We said that this purpose today was to celebrate connecting and working by demystifying virtual meetings. See me coming back to the purpose to remind us why we did this. And here I am telling you that this meeting mattered if you have one new thing that you'll try. And if you don't, send me an angry email. But that was the stakes for the meeting today. Engagement from you creates engagement in your meeting. You must be engaged first and be willing to take the risk to engage your people. I'd love it if you came and joined more workshops with me like this. But now let's do some questions. That's all. You guys, thank you for being here. Gavin, what do we got?
So much. Really, really enjoyed your presentation and the tools and ideas you had there. First question I have for you is, and I saw Noah Kagan here in town, actually go out and pay somebody for a great webcam setup. Can you just talk like nuts and bolts? Like, you have a beautiful backdrop. The color tone's great. I look like I came out of an Oscar Mayer Wiener package with this lighting. You're coming in like some beautiful like Vimeo production. So tell us about your setup and how people can get a good setup for their video part, because I think that's a big part of this.
Oh man, I think you're right, and it's a lot simpler than you think. I spent way too much time going down a YouTube rabbit hole, but my girlfriend has a DSLR camera. Most DSLR cameras will work, and I found a video capture card on Amazon. The one they advertise is like $100. I found one for $20, and I bought 2 stage lights for like $30 and $40, and a microphone for $50, and was able to set this up in an afternoon. So if you really want to know, you can email me and I'll send you my exact setup. Otherwise, I recommend just going on YouTube and saying home video studio setup with a DSLR camera, and there's plenty of videos out there.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate that. And I know that's not too much to the content, but I feel like when you talk about that connection part, and I thought that was really cool about talking about prioritizing that connection before trying to promote any content or trying to get into that across. Just being able to cross the chasm, being virtual, I think you have an incredible setup there. So tell me more about, like, this has been a tricky year, and this has been a hard thing to get your head around all these virtual tools. And I, as a parent with 6 kids trying to do school from home and all that, like, there's been so many tools and things. How did you find things like the Google Jamboard and other tools that you're using to facilitate these meetings and to make events work online?
Oh man, that's a great question. And I love the line from T.S. Eliot, I think it was, that good poets imitate, or bad poets imitate, good poets steal. Bad poets imitate, good poets steal. So what I'm saying is there's all kinds of free workshops going on in Austin right now. And I went to a lot of them and I saw what people are doing and I stole from them. I stole the virtual collaboration from Douglas at Voltage Control. Anna Jackson with Liberating Structures. I went to a lot of her sessions to learn what she's done, and I've borrowed from her. So I would say if you're looking for things that might work for you, stack your calendar with like 8 online virtual things. Austin's got such a good community, and beg, borrow, and steal what works and what doesn't. That's what I did.
That's a great idea. I think it's smart to learn from each other, and the quicker we adapt, the better.
Yeah.
So I have a question here from our attendees today. This one's from Kelly Roop, and she's asking, do you have any specific advice, Reagan, for making meetings more neurodiverse friendly?
Thank you, Kelly, for the question. Can you help me understand what you mean by neurodiverse? Or Gavin,
I'm happy to interpret it. But in terms of neurodiversity, meaning there's different learning styles, different thinking styles. Some people like me, I'm worried about like the smeared Twinkie on the background on the wall. So turning video on for me sometimes is like, you're going to see me changing a diaper during a call. But, other people are deeper thinkers or maybe not ready for this on the spot. So what's some advice for accommodating different skill sets?
That's great. I think the first and most important thing is getting clarity on what your people need. And so we don't want to put anyone on the spot and say in the meeting, hey, who has a different learning style? Will you out yourself? Do an anonymous survey ahead of time and provide people an opportunity to give you feedback about how they learn or participate most effectively. And from that, with real data, I would then build something. So if you've got people who the video thing freaks them out, like maybe try experimenting with doing a meeting asynchronously where people can submit recordings of their ideas and provide feedback to one another. Or maybe just do one entire jam session on a Google Jamboard where people are just typing and working in ideas instead of having to worry about their camera. I think that your imagination can guide you the way. The first thing you got to do is understand what your people need. So you're giving them what they need.
That's great. And kind of doubling down on Kelly's question, I think she's also clarifying and saying, there are, and COVID's accelerated these diagnoses, but there are folks that we work with or we help and treat that are ADHD, depressed, autistic, things like that. Any ideas there for cool tools or ways to engage there?
The main thing that I've seen is just when you feel like you're lost, probably the best thing that we can do is do what we would do in person, which is figure out a way to get people out of their bodies. So I've seen people do walking meetings virtually where people will walk around and have the Zoom on the camera and go, and you have to do a field trip to take your meeting. But I think mainly the wisdom that I baked into the session is just every 10 minutes, make sure you're giving people a break. Like, don't hit us with 30, 40, 50 minutes of stuff in a row. Give us a break.
Oh, I like that a lot. And that's a great segue into this next question from Rebecca Zinmeyer. She said, what are your tips for folks that are, not paying attention? You got the video on, you're seeing it, everybody's, on their phone. Like I'm always on my phone, or they're kind of checked out. How do you get attention back?
Yeah. So the first response, I get this one a lot. The first response is always, most of our problems can be solved by having the uncomfortable conversation we don't want to have. Right. So privately, if I've got a person who continually is not participating, I'd get with them offline and say, hey, I know that it's tough to stay engaged. Can you help me understand what might be able to dial you in a little bit more and partner them with you in the solution? You'd be surprised at what that will do for you. But in addition to that, some of the tools that we suggested today is make sure that you're farming out responsibilities throughout the meeting. So if I'm in a meeting and I know that I'm up next to present an idea, man, then I'm going to be interested in paying attention. Or pause for feedback and questions often and do the pass the baton thing so that people know at any given time in this meeting, people are going to come to me and look for me to be present.
That's incredible. No, I think that's really good advice. And I like the idea of kind of tackling it head on and addressing that directly with the individual. Reagan, we're running up on the end of time here. Tell us more about kind of your plans for the rest of this year and how people can engage with you if they liked what they heard today.
Man, thank you, Gavin. What a pleasure to be with you all today. I've just done what all startup people need to do, which is run a buttload of experiments and see what works. And so I'm offering every Wednesday, including today, virtual workshops on a bunch of ideas that I think are great, like time management and stop thinking what other people are thinking about you and how to tell your story and have a better pitch, just to see what sticks. And some of them are sticking. So my plans for the rest of the year are to continue to see what people need and how to give it to them virtually. If you go to reaganpugh.com/live, You can see all of the workshops that I'm currently doing. And if you look at the bottom there, if you use the code ASW20, you can get 25% off any of the workshops. That's at reaganpugh.com/live. And if you just want to send me an email, reagan@reaganpugh.com, to connect, I'd love to hear what you're learning and be of any support that I can be.
Awesome. Thank you, Reagan, so much. Really appreciate your time, your insights, and your help here for Austin's community. Pleasure to have you here today, and thank you so much for sharing with all of us.
It was an honor. Thank you, Gavin. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Everyone, that was Reagan Pugh. You can find him at reaganpugh.com or at Reagan Pugh on Twitter. Really grateful for having him here. He did an incredible job. Isn't that video beautiful? So now we're transitioning over to our networking session. And this is exciting because we get to, find ways to do this online. It's so hard to make this work. We're using a tool called Hopin, and you're going to like this. I've used it for a couple other events here at Capital Factory and really like the serendipity. If any of y'all remember Chat Roulette back in the day, it has some of that fun kind of, serendipitous vibe to it. So there's going to be a button to the left hand of your screen that will let you pair up and have a 5-minute chat. The cool thing there is Hopin will then send you an email afterwards to connect you to, so you can share contact information afterwards. So please use it, jump in. I'm going to jump in too. I want to meet some of you. So I'm really excited to try out this tool, and we'll get emails to follow up afterwards. So for the next 15 minutes, we'll be in a networking session, and then we'll come back here for the next session where we'll have some speakers talking about the workplace and intellectual property issues, which is something I love to talk about, and excited to introduce them as well. So please join me now over in Hopin.